Good evening, venerables, excellencies and distinguished guests. It's an honor to be here in such a wonderful event, initiative, where a lot of distinguished guests has been spoken about conflict avoidance and environmental consciousness. I am Kham from Metta Development Foundation. I'm from Myanmar. And the foundation that I'm working with is a humanitarian as well as a community development organization working in Myanmar every year with around 100,000 farmers. And today I would like to share my humble thoughts and observation based on Myanmar's experience. The first thing is about climate justice and ethical economy. The second point I'd like to talk about is a dialogue with religious nationalism. My first topic about climate justice and ethical economy. Many distinguished speakers have spoken about climate change and the calamity that it brings to the world, the threat that it brings to the world, and our concern about it. And I'd like to share my experience. Just recently, Myanmar has faced the biggest flood in its living memory. 12 provinces out of 14 has been affected, 1.6 million people affected, and 1 million acres of agriculture land inundated and destroyed. It has so much impact. First, it destroyed the food of the people, and even more, it also destroyed the crop that is going to be harvested in the coming season. So it has a lot of impact. And in 2008, some of you might heard about this, Cyclone Nargis hit Myanmar, and over 150,000 people killed. And again, this is one of the biggest destruction that Myanmar has faced. So 2008, 2010, 2015, why this climate disaster come very often? And a lot of us are talking about anthropocentric climate change and how the politicians, economists, and the people address this issue. And I think here I would like to talk about business, economy, how we conduct this. This morning, many speakers talk about ideologies and philosophy. I think we also need to look at what are the ideologies and philosophy behind the current economic model that the world is practicing and what impact it has brought to us. And we know that the current economic model is very much based on the profit. It has very little consideration about the people as well as the planet. And here I'd like to talk about some statistics at the presence of our friends from India and Japan. In 2014, India investment and trade agreement with Myanmar is $2 billion. And for the Japan, it's 55.7 million. So it means that both India and Japan has a lot of investment in Myanmar, which is very much far-reaching, has a lot of impact to the life of the people. And I would like to emphasize that our economy has to be ethical. Myanmar is a transitioning country, and we are grappling with a lot of different issues. For example, like land grabbing, labor exploitation. So when economic investment, uplifting well-being and livelihood of the people, economic situation in Myanmar is important. But in the meantime, I would like to say that ethical investment in Myanmar is very important. When our country transitioned from dictatorship to democratic country in 2010, we are still struggling, and it's still a work in progress. When the country opened up, a lot of investment come in, and that is somehow positive, but we are worried a lot because a lot of investment has to do with extractive industry, mining, logging, which can create money very quickly. And Myanmar is a natural resource rich country, but we still need to find ways to use it wisely. And I think I don't need to mention much about why social and environmental safeguarding is very important in conducting economy in Myanmar, investment in Myanmar. And here I would like to highlight some points. When Myanmar got independent from the British government was quite concerned that after they leave the country, Myanmar would be in trouble. Maybe they don't know how to conduct their business properly. So the British government sent a senior economic advisor to Myanmar, E.F. Schumacher. And when he arrived in Myanmar around 1940 something, what he realized is that he don't need to teach Myanmar. Actually, he should learn from Myanmar. What he found there is an economic system which is based on the teaching of Buddhism, based on the idea of right livelihood, where those traders benefit as well as other people are benefiting out of that. So he written an essay about this, Buddhist economy based on the idea of right livelihood. And in the time of economic turmoil, I think this is the idea that we should also revisit it. I think what the book gave me, what his essay gave me, is the thought about the question about can we shift our economy from profit-oriented economy to an economy where we can show more compassion and kindness to the people as well as to other sentient beings and the environment. So I think this is my point about climate justice and ethical economy, and I'd like to move to another topic about a dialogue with religious nationalism. When Myanmar opened up, our neighboring countries, well-wishers, friends are happy with great expectation that Myanmar is transitioning into a democratic country. And with the transition, many spaces opening up, for example, like freedom of expression. And in Myanmar nowadays, the media can write quite openly, criticize the government, as well as talk about the corruption of the ministries. Social media is also thriving. A lot of young people are using social media. But in the meantime, what we are seeing is the rise of religious extremism. And if you follow the news about Myanmar, you might heard about communal violence, conflict in Myanmar, and the so-called Buddhist extremism. So many articles are questioning how come Buddhism, which is seen as a very peaceful religion, is capable of committing such violence. And for me, growing up in Myanmar, being governed by the military government, who are also Buddhists, it's not really surprising. Especially, many people notice that in Myanmar, there is a group of Buddhists, also led by Buddhist monks, called Mabata, Association of Protection, Religion and Nationality. Is on the rise. And actually, this is the ideology which bring all Myanmar people together to fight against the British colony. But what is going on now is very sad. I would like to highlight the case that just recently, a few weeks ago, 4 bill was passed by the parliament and being enacted, which is interfaith marriage bill, monogamy bill, birth control bill, and religious conversion bill. Interfaith marriage bill limit Buddhist women. Not limit. There are certain procedures if a Buddhist woman want to marry a non-Buddhist man, and the procedure make it very difficult, as you may guess. And again, the birth control bill, it's also again a very nasty law. And the religious conversion bill is also similar. Why I'm saying this? A lot of human rights groups are pointing out that these 4 bills are unacceptable on the ground of breaching the very constitution of Myanmar, as well as breaching universal human rights, as well as breaching the Convention of Eliminating Discrimination Against Women. But how come these laws being passed and enacted? According to some of the literature, it might even be called structural violence. It's a policy discriminating the women and non-Buddhist people who are part of Myanmar. And if we look at how this movement arises and how this bill come into being, I must say that it is very, very much based on the insecurity and fear. When the country opened up, Myanmar has faced a lot of new challenges. The Buddhist community has faced a lot of new challenges. And I think this is in response to that challenges. And the very ideology about protection of race and religion has bring Myanmar people together to fight against the British. But the question is that ideology still relevant in this age? Will that bring any good to Myanmar? Again, I think if we look at this issue to the situation in Myanmar, I think it also has to do with identity and inclusiveness in the social, economic and political sphere of the minority religious group and ethnic groups. And one might say that it has also to do with rule of law, good governance, and it also has to do with vested political interests, definitely. But I think it also clearly showing the need of moral leadership and courage, that we need to draw from the great traditions that taught us about compassion and loving kindness. And again, I would like to resound many distinguished speakers that education is very important. I would particularly like to focus on the stories that we told our children, the stories that is taught at school. What kind of stories we are teaching our children? Is that the only stories glorifying the war heroes? Or is that the story which emphasize on the leadership which brings compassion and peace to our society? I think we really have to look into our curriculum and the way we told the stories to our children. And again, I would like to say dialogue is key. And And lastly, again, thanks Dr. Lehman to bring this out. I think talking about this type of violence, talking about the civil conflict in Myanmar, it's very clear the role of women are very important. I would like to emphasize this again. And again, be it man-made disasters like war, or be it natural disaster, women are the ones who are affected most. But in the meantime, women are the ones who nurture the family and our civilization. And if we don't give women important role in peace building, making peace, as well as in decision making, I think we would not go very far when we talk about conflict avoidance and environmental consciousness. Thank you very much to Samvad initiative, and I wish all the success to our initiative. Thank you very much.